Good day, everyone, and welcome to Singapore. It's early morning here. Well, early for some, 8 a.m. The temperature is 77 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately 25 degrees Celsius. It was raining very hard this morning, but luckily we are going to have a dry walkabout. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, all right? So my name is Imran, and I will take you on this little walkabout here. For those of you who have been on walks with me, welcome back. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for logging in, and hopefully I will give you a nice, entertaining, and informative walk, enough that you will start to follow me and look out for some of my future tours. So we are here in Singapore, and you can see behind me the sign. It's mirrored, I guess, but that is the name of the street that we are walking down today, Telok Ayer. Telok Ayer in Malay, which is one of our local languages here, means water bay, because indeed where I am standing, and I'll show you this, you'll get a feel for this a little bit later as we do our walkabout, was the shoreline for Singapore in the 1800s. So this was basically the beach area. This was also a bay for many of the migrants who landed in Singapore from other parts of the world, including China and India. And we will be seeing evidence of these migrant landings, which started basically in the early 1800s, 1819 onwards, which is also the beginning of the colonial period here in Singapore. And with the evidence that we will see will be in the form of the religious places of worship that are found on this street. This is one of Singapore's streets of interfaith harmony. We are going to see a Taoist temple. We're going to see a Chinese temple, which is kind of a blend between Taoist and Buddhist. We will see a Sufi shrine dedicated to a Muslim Sufi saint. It's beautiful architecture. And we will see a mosque and a church. And in between, we're going to walk through a hawker street food center, where we will see some of Singapore's very famous street food. In fact, Singapore street food has even been recognized as an intangible world heritage by UNESCO. So, and food also reflects Singapore's ethnic and religious diversity. I'm not going to talk for too much longer, but I do want to show two slides to you to give you an idea of the type of mix that we are talking about here in Singapore. Ethnic mix, you can see the Chinese, the Malay, the Indians, and the others. The others are people like me who don't fit in a box very easily, so we are the rounding off number in the population. But you can see it's essentially Chinese dominated by ethnicity. But look at the religions there, and then you will see how diverse Singapore is from a religious point of view. And we'll see a little bit of this religious diversity during our walk. And we will also see some of the ethnic diversity in the hawker center where the food is being sold, because whether it's Indian food, whether it's Malay food, whether it's Chinese, or a fusion of everything, it's all considered local to us. All right, I'm not going to stop by the burrito stall at this food center because, yes, we even, of course, have accepted Western food. We don't really consider it local yet, Mexican food, but perhaps one day when things have changed. All right, so let us begin with our walk. So Telok Ayer Street, which is one of the oldest streets in Chinatown, is also a street that has a lot of beautiful shop houses. And these are the houses that I'm showing you right now. The shop houses comprise of warehouses or shops on the lower level, and the families that lived or worked in those shop houses or in the lower level, the warehouses or the shops, they lived on the levels above. Some of them, like this small yellow one that you are seeing, would be families that perhaps were not as wealthy as, say, the one that is right next to it on its left, which is the three-story one, because of course, the higher the shop house, the more status it bestowed on the family that owned it. These shop houses that we are seeing, they're from the 1930s, pre-war. All right, and here are some beautiful examples. You can see the bamboo tiles. Let me zoom in a little there, which represents the Chinese culture here, as well as, of course, the flowers. If you look at the flowers and the fish on this one here in this house, can you see the fish and the flowers there? So these shop houses today have been converted into restaurants, into shops, into dining, outdoor dining. So this area has kind of gentrified, but you can see these shop houses are really quite beautiful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a vertical in case any of you want to take a postcard of these. So let me do that in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. So I'll first give you one of this here. And perhaps I will zoom in for you. And then let me step a little to my left and give you one of this one here. All right. And so we'll go back to horizontal in 3. 1, 2, 3. Now today, this street, which is consisting of these are all conserved, preserved areas, these shop houses. It is nestled within the central business district of Singapore. So it's a low-rise area. However, all around us are tall office blocks. You might even be able to see some of them at the end of the street. And we're also coming up to our first place of worship. You can see this brown building with the very nice towers here. This is known as the Nagore Dargah, and that means that it is a shrine. And this shrine is dedicated to an Indian Sufi saint who was or is believed to have had a special relationship with sailors and seafarers. And as you can see, it's a beautiful building. He was a 16th century saint. Many of the Indians who migrated to Singapore in the 1800s, they started their journey from this port town called Nagore. And this building is a copy or a replica of the shrine where that saint is buried in India. So I put up a slide there, and you can see on one side we have the Singapore Nagore Dargah shrine, and on the left we have the original in India. And the one in Singapore here, it doesn't have anyone buried in it, but the one in India, of course, has the body of that 16th century saint. So this is an Islamic shrine, not a mosque. And you can see as I slowly turn the camera, this yellow tent, that is associated with a Taoist temple that is the neighbor of this shrine. So welcome everyone. In case you're joining a bit late, welcome to Singapore. We are on our walk down Telok Ayer Street, one of the oldest streets in Singapore's Chinatown. And we are seeing some places of worship, and we will also see some of Singapore's famed street food. Now, I'm taking you through this tent that has been set up because there's a festival that is going on at this temple here. And the temple is, you can see, it's the one associated with this pagoda. It's a Taoist temple. Let me step out a little and maybe also give you a vertical here. So I'll do that in 3. 1, 2, 3. You can see the skies behind us a little bit dark because it did rain heavily right before the tour started. Luckily, it's dry now. So I'm going to... This temple is about 180 years old, and the Nagore Dargah that we saw, that also dates from the 1820s. All right, I'm going to now go back to horizontal in 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so the festival, it's a festival dedicated to the 9 emperors. And this temple that we are, so you can see here, let me show you. It says here, the Festival of the Jade Emperors. But the one that we are celebrating here is this one, the Festival of 9 Emperors. All right? And this is outside the shrine, but outside the shrine is also where we can purchase items that are burnt as offerings to our ancestors. So if you look at this, you can see you can buy this basket of items for Singapore dollars 79. Singapore 79 would be approximately US dollars 50. It's about 1.4 Singapore dollars to 1 US dollars. Now these contain items that may be useful or helpful to making the lives of your ancestors more comfortable. So you can see there's some food here and even some gold bars. Now, the thinking is that when you burn these items, as the smoke goes up to the sky, it carries these items to your ancestors, and they can then use it. You can see an individual here who's offering using incense sticks or joss sticks. We'll let him complete his prayers before I take you to the front of this temple. You might even be able to hear some music in the background. This temple is dedicated to the Heavenly Jade Emperor, and it is also listed as a national monument here in Singapore. Let me slowly step back without getting myself run over on the road here. All right, so, and then I will, it's a beautiful, beautiful frontage. You can see the name over there, the Yu Huang Gong Temple. I'm not taking you inside this temple, however, I will take you inside the next one, which means I will cross the road again. But since we are here, if you just look at this sign, you can see that this sign is written in 4 languages. So you have English right on the top, Mandarin Chinese below it, Malay at number 3, and Tamil right at the bottom. those are the 4 official languages we have here in Singapore. Yes, we have 4, which means you can conduct official government business in any of those languages. And here are more items to burn. Now, I haven't really heard much from you guys. So yes, Helen, Tamil. It's a very old language, and it is an official language here. Even though the population of Tamil speakers is probably less than 10%. Now I am going to cross the road here. But I was saying that I haven't heard much from you guys. So please do chime in with your comments, your questions, anything, because that is the temple that I'm going to take you in, the one that you are seeing now. I wanted to give you a front view of the temple before I take you in, because it is beautiful. This temple started life as a small altar in 1820s, and it is dedicated to the goddess of the seas. And you can understand why that is the case, because think about where I am standing to show you this picture. Where I am standing was the sea, the shoreline, the coastline of Singapore. And the Chinese migrants who landed here in the 1800s, they would land very much where I'm standing, park their boats, walk over to solid ground, which is about where the temple is located, and they built an altar to the goddess of the sea, Mazu, who they believe protected them during this very, very treacherous journey from southern China through the South China Sea and all the way to Singapore. So absolutely, the dragons and even the little pearl you might be able to see in between the dancing dragons there. And the curved roof, that signifies that this is essentially built in the southern Chinese style. And if you think the roof is amazing, wait till I show you some of the craftsmanship close up. So let's head over and take a closer look. I'm going to try and avoid the puddles as I walk towards the temple and show you a closer look of the temple. You can also get a closer look of some of the dragons and the roof. And beside the roof, you can see the pagoda of the Taoist temple. So they basically share a boundary wall. So we've not even walked maybe 200 meters. We've already come across an Islamic shrine. We've come across a Taoist temple. And this temple, you'll see, is basically a blend between a Taoist, a Buddhist, and even a Confucian temple. The railings that you are seeing, imported from Scotland during the colonial period. The structure we are seeing was built in 1842. Now this, where the guard dogs are, or the guardian lions are, was the main entrance. You can see the big urn behind. So I am walking up the main entrance. And here you have the main urn with people placing their incense or joss sticks in it. At the back, where you see the red lanterns, behind that is where the goddess of the sea, Mazu, can be found. And this is her. Yeah, absolutely. These temples are beautiful, Elizabeth, and they are so serene and peaceful. Sometimes when I am bringing tour groups here and they're wandering about, I just come and find a little quiet spot and just relax. I have to turn on my alarm to make sure that I don't miss my next appointment. So, before we go in, let me show you some of the work on the temple's roof outside. And of course, you may have noticed that these lions came in a pair, and we have one male and one female. And let's slowly now start showing you some of the amazing stuff, the workmanship. If anyone wants me to focus in, zoom in on something, please just holler. And that is the name of the temple, Thian Hock Keng, which can be loosely translated as the Temple of Heavenly Happiness. And I'll slowly bring you down, give you the same view again, but it's quite a dramatic view. Yes, they are, Dawn. They are different. And in fact, inside the temple, I can't take you there because there are restrictions on cameras and filming near where the main deity is. They have some faces which are believed to be Indian faces because Indians were involved in the labor used to build this temple. And that was a way to recognize and acknowledge the contribution of the non-Chinese in the building of this temple. I'm going to show you this gold lantern that is on, I believe, the left side. It is some sort of wood, Karen. I am not sure what wood it is, but it is some sort of wood. What I do know, however, is that they have minimized the use of nails. And if you look at the wood and the way it's been placed, it's kind of like wood blocks that have been fitted together. So thank you very much, Holly. Very kind of you. Tips are always helpful in allowing me to bring more content to the platform. And this lantern is also just gorgeous. And the one behind it, along with these figures up here. Thank you, Erica. Very kind of you. I'm going to continue to show you some more of this. And maybe even zoom in for you a little so you can take a closer look. It's just amazing, Dawn, the amount of detail there is. There's always something new to notice. And look at that dragon right there. I'm going to bring you slowly down. Yeah, he does. His eyes do look a little sad. You're right. We have this tile here as well. And some carvings. Now, I am going to now take you inside. Thank you very much, Helen. Take you inside. Now, of course, me being just a normal plebeian worker bee, I cannot go in through the royal entrance. I go in through the side entrance. This is the side entrance. And in fact, as I slowly turn around, I'm going to show you a few other things. And don't worry if you see something that is beautiful and amazing, because we're probably going to go back to it. So the first thing to notice, of course, is this plaque here. This plaque outlines the names of the people who donated money for the building of the temple. Helen, other than perhaps some of our parliamentarians and foreign dignitaries, not really. However, this temple was recognized by the Chinese emperor, and there's a plaque at the back which was delivered by the Chinese emperor to this temple in recognition of its importance to the Chinese diaspora here in Singapore. Now, this gentleman here who looks kind of ferocious, you can think of him like a Homeland Security guy. He's a security guard, a door guardian. I'm going to go vertical for you on it. And he is there to keep evil out as well as riffraff. So let me go vertical in 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Jennifer. So I personally find this door guard to be nice, colorful, even though it's meant to be scary. And he's got a partner on the other side. I'm going to slowly pan across. And you can see the outside where the car is parked, where that sign is 137 Telok Ayer. I was standing just about there, which would have been the shoreline in the 1800s. The colonials, the British colonials, did a land reclamation in this area in the 1870s, and that's when the shoreline moved. So this is his partner, also from the TSA or Homeland Security. He's also meant to keep evil out of the temple. So I am going to go back to horizontal in 3. So 1, 2, 3. And now let's just take a look at some of the inside of the temple. And I'll show you quite some of the detail as well. We will do a walk around the temple as well. So here is the main urn. In Singapore now, due to fire safety regulations, all these type of urns must be in an open courtyard or in an open area. They are not allowed to be indoors. Now, I can't take you much closer than this because we are not allowed to film or take photographs beyond a certain point, and I don't want to upset the custodians of the temple. But inside is where you can see the main deity. She's not very clear, but that is Ma Zhu standing or sitting inside. And she is the goddess of the seas. Remember, she protected sailors during their journeys to Singapore. You can see today it's a little bit busy as well. It gets much busier over the weekends and also on festive occasions. Take a look at the roof as well. And the pearl over there that you can see in the middle between the two dragons, that represents this idea of trying to attain perfection, trying to improve and move towards perfection. And the dragons, they are royal dragons. That means they have 5 claws, and they act as intermediaries between this world and the next world. So generally, these are flying dragons who act as intermediaries. So shall we take a walk around the courtyard, and we'll see also some other deities that are placed around the temple, and also take a look at some of the work that is found inside. Like right here holding on the corner of these beams with the what looks to me like orchids. There. The lanterns really do add character. You might notice a big drum at the back. That drum is still used for special occasions. It is very, very loud. This is a sneaker view of the main deity inside. This is better lighting. And you can also see there are people who are praying. I met some people from the Singapore Navy recently, and one of them told me that before his ship goes out to sea, he comes to this temple and prays to Mazu for his safe return. That it was something that he started doing when he first went out to sea, and he's continued with it. So we'll do a walk around the courtyard, and you can see some more of the deities and also individuals who are praying to them. There are many different gods and goddesses here. Some of them are particular to civil servants, police officers. They are meant to be benevolent rulers. So those who are in public service, they will pray to them, make offerings to them. And the thing about these incense sticks is that as the smoke rises to the heavens, it takes your prayers to the heavens with it. And let's see something that is also quite unique here, which are these tablets. These tablets, if you can see through the glass, through the reflections on the glass, they are kind of like tombstones. So they represent individuals who have passed away. Filial piety is a big thing in Chinese culture and ancestor worship, in Taoism as well. So by placing a tablet to commemorate or honor your past ancestors, you can come here and pray to them and make offerings to them. And because this temple is one of the most prominent temples in the Chinese community, for the Chinese community in Singapore, it also means that there will constantly be people that will be coming and going from here, which means that your ancestors will never get lonely. It's important for your ancestors to be happy. That is why we burn items, or the Chinese, those who believe in this culture, they will burn items, and some of the things that people have offered can be everyday things. So we can find replicas, paper replicas of vehicles, cars, even iPhones and iPads, because as I often say, who doesn't need an iPad up there, right? You might want to stream your favorite program. So all these type of things can be found in paper replica form, and they are then burnt as offerings. Don, you ask, have they made donations? Yes, in fact, there is a set fee for placing your tablet over there. And your tablet only can stay for a limited period of time. I believe it's 7 years, because that will give the opportunity to others to also place their ancestors' tablets over there. This is a goddess that some of you may recognize. This is Guanim, the goddess of mercy. She is very, very popular Buddhist goddess. So even though we're in a Chinese temple, you can see in a Taoist temple, I'm sorry, I should have said. Erica, yes, I'm going to try and do that. Even though we're in a Taoist temple, you will find this Buddhist deity, Guanim, and later on I will show you also Confucius. So there's a little bit of a reflection here because of the glass. And you can see more dragons on the table below. So let me slowly walk back a little, give you a full shot. All right. And let's move on. Are we ready to move on? So, great. And we come to the third corridor or part of the courtyard. And this is where we will find Confucius. Confucius, as some of you may be aware, is associated with academia, with learning. So if you come here during exam time, often you will find parents making offerings or saying prayers to Confucius, and students for their kids, for their children, their grandchildren, to make sure they pass their exams. So here is the man, Confucius. And Confucius also was a big propagator of filial piety. In fact, Confucianism, as many of you may know, was to some extent a very hierarchical philosophy. Wasn't really started off as a religion, but as a philosophy. All right, so we've got some tentage up here because I think they're also doing some renovation work above us, but maybe we will be able to give you a nice shot within a shot that I normally try and give frame. But we've got this white canopy tarpaulin here, but still this is a beautiful side shot of the main courtyard. So what you're looking at is the main courtyard. And so if you like, let me try and see if we can do a vertical one here in 3. 1, 2, 3. How's that? And I'll go back to horizontal in 3. So 1, 2, 3. And we are on our way. So thank you very much, those of you who have followed. Remember, we are walking around Telok Ayer Street, one of the oldest streets in Singapore's Chinatown. And right now I'm inside the Temple of Heavenly Happiness. And it is pretty heavenly here, isn't it? It's really an awesome temple. And before I leave, I wanted to give you one shot over here with the lanterns and the gold carvings. And perhaps I'll do it in vertical in 1, 2, 3. The good news is that there's a Coke machine at the back of one of the doors, which luckily, thankfully, we are missing. because we don't want to ruin this atmosphere with a Coke machine, right? So let me, while we are vertical, show you the royal dragon on the main temple. So remember who greeted me as I walked into the temple. It was that fierce-looking door guard, the Homeland Security guy. Now, if you are a royal, an emperor, you come in through this door and you are greeted by this royal dragon. And the reason we know that it is a royal dragon is because if we look at his claws, there are 5 claws. I'm going to just take the camera horizontal again. So in 1, 2, 3. You can see that he has 5 claws. A normal dragon, so if I were to ask a Chinese artist or painter to paint a dragon for me on my door, he'd paint it with 6 claws because the 5-clawed dragon is there for royalty. The 5 claws represent the 5 elements that are things like metal, earth, air, water. All right, so one final shot before we exit the temple. I hope it's not temple overkill for some of you, but it's such a beautiful temple. I'm always tempted to try and give differing views of the temple. They absolutely are amazing, Dawn. So let's go back out of our my regular doorway here, and you might notice that as I go down, there's a kind of a ledge or a step that I have to step over, and that is to make it more difficult for evil to come into the temple. I'm glad you agree with me, Elizabeth, because really, and this is one of the most beautiful temples that we have in Singapore. So we're back out on the street. It looks to be getting clearer. And you can see at the back there some of the buildings of the CBD, the Central Business District area as well. So let's continue on. Before we cross the road again, which I will do, I want to show you a few things from this side entrance of the temple, which also is quite beautiful and has some wonderful tiles also. Let me just get closer. A little bit more color here and not just gold. This dragon is perhaps not as sad as the one we saw earlier, but he still looks a little bit sober. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really appreciate that. And this tile here, if people are interested, I could also go vertical on this, and there's one other tile. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really appreciate that. And of course, the dragons. All right, so let us carry on. Yes, of course. Unfortunately, I cannot go too far down. There's a fence here, but let's see how much we can get. So I'll go vertical in 1, 2, 3. So there is a little fence here. I'm going to try and go through the fence. How's that? Trying to get the fence out of the way. How's that? Okay. So since we're vertical, let me also then take you. Sure, no problem. Let me, since we're vertical, take you to one of the tiles on the side here and also this door on the side. This one here. Because there's a lot of color. These look to be basically officials. And also one tile that is outside. So this one is inside the fenced area. But here we have this one. All right, so I am going to go horizontal again in 3. So 1, 2, 3. So going back out on the road, and we're going to cross the road and carry on from the other side. You can see the tour buses are back. Singapore is welcoming tourists again now. In fact, even the vaccinated requirement has now been removed. So those who choose not to get vaccinated, they are also able to travel in without quarantine, subject to certain restrictions. More shop houses. Yes, it is. And the city is coming back to life now. If you go to Changi Airport, it is very busy again. And in fact, we are talking about starting construction on Terminal 5 again, which had been stopped or suspended during the pandemic. Now, some of you may be able to see up here the crescent and star. It's very easy to miss as I walk by, but this is a mosque. And that's because it's easy to miss because basically it's just another shop house, probably 2 shop houses that have been joined together to create this mosque, which is the Al-Abrar Mosque, also from the 1820s. It's not one of the prettiest or most imposing mosques that we have in Singapore, but it is interesting because of its location. And that is on this street from the 1820s, which shows that we've got interfaith practices going on from a couple of centuries ago. So this is, you can see the name there, the Al-Abrar Mosque. There's no dome to the mosque, and the minarets also purely cosmetic. And for those who are interested, on the right, I guess, of your screen up here, you will see Al-Abrar Mosque written in Tamil, which is one of the 4 official languages that we have here in Singapore. So let's carry on. We also have a few beautiful examples of shop houses coming up. Keep your eyes open for the balcony, the shop house with a balcony that's right at the end there. And you can see that now these shop houses are basically turned into cafes and restaurants. This street, in fact, is very popular and very well known for its Korean food, Korean restaurants. So can you see the shop house with the balcony? Let's see if I can also get a better view of it from the front. Let me go vertical. You can see the sign for the mosque there, the Al-Abrar Mosque. So let me go vertical in 3, 1, 2, 3. Move a little, get the tree out of the way. And while we're vertical, I'll also show you some of the other shop houses. So this shop house with the balcony would be 1930s, pre-Second World War. But as I go further, if you look at the shop house that is on the right of the French Fold Cafe, there's the brown with the Chinese characters, that would be a post-war shop house. You can see it's not very ornate, or the designs. Take a look at the windows. They're very functional compared to the windows with the shutters, the large French windows. That one has very, very basic utilitarian windows, and also the design very utilitarian. Possibly the shop house was damaged during the Second World War when Singapore was occupied by the Japanese. And so when they rebuilt it very, very, in a very functional manner. So I'm going to go back to horizontal now in 3, 1, 2, 3. And so depending on what time it is, where you are, your time zone, if it's time for you to start eating, I'm going to hopefully whet your appetite with some food. I'm going to take you inside the Amoy Street Food Center, one of the most prominent and well-known food centers, hawker centers, that is visited very much by locals. As I walk in, look at the left or the right side of your screen. We still have cobblers in modern day Singapore. Not a very common sight, but you can see there we do have them. And so, thank you for joining at this time, Dawn. You are a night owl and you're a star for joining me at this time. Thank you. Maybe a 2 a.m. snack is something that beckons you. So this hawker center that I'm walking into has 2 levels. We're only going to walk around the ground or street level. And I'm going to show you a few things, including one of my favorite stalls, which in fact, after this tour is over, I'm going to come back and eat something from. But this here is Hainanese chicken rice, the unofficial national dish of Singapore. You can see it's basically rice and either with grilled or steamed chicken. And the rice is sometimes cooked in water in which the chicken has been steamed, and of course using a few spices and fragrances as well. Add some flavor to the rice. So you can see these are basically the different types of stalls. This is the structure of a street food hawker center in Singapore. And essentially Singaporeans, because we are all working irrespective of how many people live in the household. Basically, it's very common for individuals to eat 1, maybe even 2 meals a day at these sort of hawker centers. I'll show you some prices as well as we move along. This hawker center, because remember we're surrounded by the CBD, the Central Business District area, very difficult to get a place to sit at lunchtime because the lunchtime crowd from the nearby offices is flocks here in droves. So some of the stalls are not even open because they will cater to the lunchtime crowd. I'm going to show you, however, one stall which I enjoy coming to get their savory curry puff snacks. And I'll also be coming back for that after the tour. So this is it, curry puffs. Let me show you a little bit about more of them. Hello, how are you? Good? You don't mind if I show your food around the world? And maybe we can even see some of the. So it's a family-run stall. You can see they're putting the fillings in. Hello. And these curry puffs are absolutely delicious. I always come here and buy them. Different flavors, yam, which is a traditional one, sardine, and my favorite, which is simply the curry potato chicken. So these are, and you can also see the pricing there. Remember, it's approximately 1.4 Singapore dollars to $1. So enough of the curry puffs because maybe you don't enjoy them as much as I do. And we'll move on to one of the other lanes. And here with the food in this hawker center, one of the things that you can see is that it reflects the different migrant communities that have been coming here over the last few centuries. And so all of this, whether they're curry puffs, whether they are roti pratas, whether it is laksa, whether it's Chinese food, it's all basically considered local Singaporean food, part of the local identity. Food is very, very important in the Singaporean identity. It brings all of us together. So we do have a little bit of the breakfast time crowd over here. You can see. Uh, Beverages, actually the drinks that you saw, the drink stall, I really consider those to be very much sugary drinks. But normally people will have things like kopi o, which is just simply coffee, and tea. In fact, you can zoom in. So you see that empty glass there, that would be coffee. And then here you can see there's tea. You can have different types of tea. Teh halia, which would be ginger tea. Coffee that can be had with condensed milk or with regular milk. Many different types of coffees available. And let me take you up here where there's a little bit of street art. So, ML, I hope that answered your question. Now, this street art or mural, you can see it says Makan, and Chandra, who has joined us recently, who is teaching me Malay by his comments here, will know that that means food. And this represents the origin of today's hawker center. So you see this gentleman here. He's a Malay gentleman with a bicycle push cart. And what he would do is he would bicycle around the city, find a spot to park himself, and hawk his food that was found in that compartment behind the bicycle. And as the 1960s and 70s came around, eat food, yes, absolutely, ML. So as the 60s, 70s, 80s came around, and the government tried to impose certain hygiene standards on the food industry, what it did was it started to give these hawkers a more permanent place to sell their food. And that was the origin of the hawker center as we know it today. And we also have this concept of coffee shops. Coffee shops are basically, you can think of them as small scale hawker centers, that are found in residential areas. All right, so now if we look at this mural, you might be able to see on the door there's an ACS there. And that is because, although it's all Chinese, this area was quite busy with Methodist missionaries catering to the Chinese community. And what they did was, one of the things was they set up the ACS school, the Anglo Chinese school, which is in this area. If you're wondering about this rocker lady here, she is a Samsui woman, which is visible to us by her red headgear. She was from southern China, a region which is a matriarchal region, and she came here primarily to provide for her family back home in China. And so they were involved in all the sort of hard labor that their male counterparts were involved in building Singapore. So that means they built roads, they constructed buildings, all that type of activity these women did alongside the men. So I am going to take you down. You can see there are more and more stalls, and similar number of stalls upstairs. On the second level. And now I'm going to come down in the next lane and show you where I am going to get my dish after this tour. Hopefully it's open, and yes it is. And that's here in this Mazmu's family stall. And my favorite here is the mee soto that you can see here. But take a look at the pricing. So we're talking about 384 Singapore dollars. So that means we are talking about food that is priced at about maybe $3 US. So you can see that it is very reasonable priced food, and that also makes it very affordable for people to eat. And because, as I mentioned earlier, most people in a household will be working, males and females, that means that it's often difficult to coordinate dinner times and have meals together. So it's very common for people to even buy their food from here, take it home, eat it at home, or simply eat it over here. This lane that I'm walking through, you might be able to see, is mainly Malay Indonesian food, but you can see there's a bee on the stall here. Hello. Can everyone see this bee over here? That is not a food critic rating. That is a rating by the National Environment Agency about the hygiene standards of the stall. So there are 4 ratings, A, B, C, and D. All food establishments have the ratings, which should be publicly displayed. A, of course, is the top rating. If you get D's twice in a row, then they will fine you. They will make you go for certain training on hygiene, so on and so forth. Thank you very much, Marilyn. You can also see coffee shops. Someone earlier was asking about drinks. Well, it's a place where people will just come together and hang out. Not really a pub, but many of these hawker centers, not where we are, but in upstairs in different parts, they will also serve alcoholic beverages as well. Very common for people to sit around and just simply chat and eat and drink. So We've come only a few hundred meters from our starting point, but it's been a lot of information and a lot of things to see and do. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far, and you didn't get overwhelmed by the temple and everything else after that is secondary, because we do have one more site to see even after the food. So. Uh, Thank you very much, ML. Kelly, is that Spanish? Obrigada. And was that for me or was that for someone else? Thank you, Midori. It's always nice to have you back on my tours. And of course, you know the food almost as well, if not better than me. So please, your comments, your additions will be very, very welcome. All right, so thank you, those of you who have joined. Remember, we're on one of the oldest streets of Singapore's Chinatown. We've seen a Muslim shrine that is dedicated to a 16th century Sufi saint. We saw a Taoist temple celebrating a festival of 9 emperors. Next to that was the Temple of Heavenly Happiness, which had all the beautiful dragons and the beautiful wood carvings and tiles. And then we walked past a mosque, which was very much a plain shop house mosque. And then, of course, the food. And now, let me turn it around. We come across the Chinese Methodist Church. And I will give you nicer views of it. But since we're coming from this angle, the Chinese Methodist Church, thank you very much, Jennifer. Those of you who have left tips or can leave tips, they're always very useful to help us promote more content on Hago. So I was talking about this Chinese Methodist Church that you're seeing. This is from the late 1800s. So compared to the other places of worship that we saw, this one is a little bit more recent. And this Methodist Church was started by a missionary from Indiana in the US called Dr. Benjamin West. Now, he was somewhat of a special missionary. Why do I say that? Because remember, we're talking about the 1800s, the late 1800s, and at that time, the Europeans and the colonials, they had a very much us and them mindset about the natives that they were going to go and try and convert. Now, this gentleman, Benjamin West, he was a medical doctor, and he learned Chinese, Mandarin. He even learned a local dialect called Hokkien, and he also learned a little bit of Tamil. Remember the Tamil characters that we saw earlier? So he was able to give sermons in the vernacular, in Hokkien primarily. And that really endeared him to the local population because he made an effort. That's the first thing. The second thing was that let's walk a bit faster so we can give you a better view. You're probably not interested in the green netting. He also, as a medical doctor, offered free medical advice to anyone who walked into his clinic from which was located here in Chinatown, not far from where we were. So remember, late 1800s, there is no form of social medicine. There's no medical care. So at that time, many people, particularly those from the Chinese community here in Singapore, they were also impoverished. So for them to have access to professional medical advice was a really, really big thing. So this is perhaps a better view of the church, the Methodist Church. Take a look at the pagoda-like roof. See if I can show you a... Whoops, posted it twice. All right, so you can see the roof of this church, very much in traditional Chinese design. I imagine you have similar churches in terms of architectural style in Chinatowns in other parts of the world as well, perhaps even in your city. But this also reflects the importance of the Methodist missionary work here in this part of Singapore, and hence the ACS, the Anglo-Chinese school that we saw earlier as well. Now, as I go past this greenery, I'm going to see if I can give you another decent shot of the church from the front. Do have a number of trees blocking it, but let me just see if I can improve it with a vertical. Let me go vertical in 3. So 1, 2, 3. We do pride ourselves on the clean and green Singapore. Sometimes the greenery comes in the way of our postcards, however. But you can also notice the buildings behind the church. That's part of the office towers, part of the business district. All right, so I'm going to go horizontal again in 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so here we are. And these are office workers going about their everyday work in the mornings, because we are coming up to another train station, subway station, servicing this part of the CBD area, and this is the entrance to the Tanjong Pagar, or exit, depending on which way you look at it, of the Tanjong Pagar MRT or subway station. And so this is where we have come to the end of this morning's tour. This morning for me, it was 8 a.m. when we started, and luckily the weather held out. We did not see any rain, which was wonderful. It rained and poured right before the start of the tour, but hopefully you enjoyed it, found it entertaining, and if you did, please do write a review if you can. If you can post something on Facebook, that will also be wonderful. And of course, if you can leave a tip, if that is possible, that would also be great, because it really helps me to promote more content on HeyGo. So those of you who have followed me, thank you very much. I'm ambling a little bit slowly because in this urbanized Singapore, I can see the chickens that we have, the roosters, in this little park. There are a few of them, and you can see them right there. We normally see them hanging around in the mornings. We did have a chicken shortage in Singapore a few months ago when Malaysia stopped its exports. But luckily, these chickens survived that shortage, and they're still around. So there they go. So anyway, with that, I would like to thank you all, and have a great day, and have a great morning, have a great night. Those of you who made the effort to join me in the middle of the night for this tour, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And then we will see you again soon. All right, so this is Imran from Singapore signing off. All right, bye-bye.